Yeah! Yeah! NBA Straya, how are you going? How you going? I hope you're right. You bloody well ought to be. Why is that, Jim? Well, it's Thursday, October 17th, but mostly it's still just like that awesome time of year where we're just talking preseason and we're just making preseason fun again, aren't we? How good is that? That's right. Anyway, I'm your host, James Clements. You can also see my ugly mug on the official Supercoach NBL show, The Panel, which is pretty good. The AFL Today show, NFL Australia, probably other ones. I don't know. I'm probably forgetting a bunch of them. But I'm here in the Sports Today studio, aka the James Clements Excellence in Podcasting Memorial Studio. And what are we doing? Well, first of all, we're paying tribute to one of the greatest men to have ever trod the earth, Aron Bangers Baynes. We're going to talk a little bit of Lonzo Ball very quickly. But mostly, in this first part, and then in the second part, which will be the next show tomorrow, we're doing team win over-unders. We're going through every single team and going, this is how many wins we're going to have this year, and this is how many losses. That's how it goes, up against the actual win total over-under. How fun is this? It's always my favourite show, one of my favourite shows. The draft shows are always pretty good as well, you know. Just like, who's that guy? What's he doing? What's going on over there? Don't know, but it's going to be fun. But win over-unders, I think we smashed it last year. And to the point where I actually had these numbers pop up and then they disappeared because I had to use a different document. So I don't know. But I think of some of our favourites, we went at least 6 of the 10 favourites from last year. The one that missed was really annoying, was like Miami. I think Golden State missed again. So guess what? We're going back to the well. More unders. Woo! But we smashed a couple of obvious ones like Charlotte going under theirs last year. Brooklyn stinking up the joint. A couple of other ones. But so what we're going to do today in this show, we'll do the East. We'll do it division by division, which seems easiest. We'll sort of start off with a big macro overlooking sort of vibe of it, and then we'll just go team by team. How fun is that? Just to get you excited about the preseason and then the actual games next week, which is the actual season. Because this is that, you know, it's when it all counts. So this should be very fun. At least that's my plan. Producer Gerald's like, oh, I really bloody hope this is fun because he's just cooked. Poor bloke. Right, let's get into it. Team win over-unders, episode 1135 of NBA Straya. Oh, let's go!
This is Joe Ingles, and you're listening to NBA Australia.
Watch out for the Shaq Attack!
You better. Well, if you thought it was pretty bad, like dealing with all the Shaq gambling ads in Australia, Shaq, not only is it Shaq-a-roni season with Papa John's, how good was that divergence the other day in the Tuesday show where we just ended up talking about pizza for about 15 minutes? Yeah, the answer is that was awesome, Jim. Keep doing more pizza talk. Welcome to Pizza Straya, where we're talking best toppings. Anyone who's like, oh, you know what I hate? Shut up, morons. Who cares? Let people enjoy what they enjoy. I'm not going to judge. Shaq-a-roni, however, still on board. Anyway, draft, you've got to watch out for the Shaq Attack because he's giving himself a new nickname, which is what Shaq does. He's like the big Diesel, the big Shaqtus, which is probably one of my favorites, Superman, all that sort of stuff. Mr. Four Rings DraftKings, because he's now a DraftKings partner in the States. He did throw a ball in, which is pretty fun, sitting down in a deck chair. It's very fun. I guess we can check that out. But Shaq, so he's on like whatever gambling ads he's on over here. You get bashed over the head with them. They're fine. Like they're actually an interesting use of like Shaq. Some of them are better than others. I'm interested to see where the DraftKings stuff goes with Shaq. Yeah, good. All right, let's get into it. The way we start every show here at NBA Show with the daily whoosh. It's a whip around. We'll start with Lonzo before we get to the greatest man who ever trod this green, blue marble that we call the planet Earth. Lonzo Ball played his first basketball game in 2 years, so I guess we could rehash better than Lonzo Ball the same year that we finally actually went, right, we're doing better than Ben Simmons, and apparently we're just not going to do that. We'll just do better than Lonzo Ball again because lazy. Anyway, but Lonzo came back, and I'll tell you what, this is just nice because, you know, for all the shit we've given Lonzo over the course of the last 7-8 years of doing this show, it's a lot, But I just want him to be healthy. And he came back. He played 15 minutes. He had a 10-1-1, shot 4 of 6. The crowd was loving it. The commentators were loving it. Everybody should be loving this. A comeback story is fun. As Lonzo, it's a weird sort of fit now on Chicago. And I'm like, really? Really? Lonzo's going to come back just after they've traded for Josh Giddey. I just want Josh Giddey to have clean air. He'll probably have clean air anyway, because I think Lonzo's going to have like a 16-minute restriction on him for as long as it takes him to be okay. But it's still like, really, man? Giddey was just there by himself, and now it's Lonzo as well. But anyway, that's just a good story, though, isn't it? Yes. And the other little bit of news is that Dougie McBuckets. We all love a bit of Dougie McBuckets. He's gone to the Kings. And you're like, hey, is he like, are they just like collecting the most Kings dudes ever now at this point? I love this. The Kings are just leaning into, we're the Kings. We're just going to get all the Jason Thompsons of the world. Now we've got a Doug McDermott. We've already got DeMar DeRozan. We've had Tobias Harris. Let's go. We're the Kings. It's like Sabonis and Fox are almost too exciting for the Kings. We'll talk about them in tomorrow's show, but either way. But the big one for NBA Straya, which I've already tweeted, posted about, this one hit home a little hard, but you knew it was sort of coming. Aron Bangers Baynes, absolute legend. Bangers. The man from Mariba. I remember being in, Port Douglas? You walk into a bar and there's like a signed Aron Bangers Baynes jersey on the wall. I'm like, yes, I'm definitely getting drunk here. And I did. Man, I'm a word. But Aron Bangers Baynes is retired. Does this mean he's going to take over cooking with Baynesy full time? We don't know yet. Hopefully coming out as an NBA Australia limited series, Cooking with Baynesy. We're working on it. But Bangers, look, so this was kind of announced by his agent, Daniel Moldovan. And so I chatted to his agent, Daniel Moldovan, during the offseason, and he was like, look, he's just happy that he's healthy. And then there was like all this sort of stuff going on around like what Olgun chatting to him at Hoops Fest, and was like, yeah, I'm sort of, if need be, I'm ready and I'm all good to go, but I'm also happy if I'm not playing. And then it sort of comes out that he's retired. So one of the great dudes in Australian basketball history, for the simple fact that he actually holds the co-record with Patty Thrills for the most three-pointers in a game by an Australian in the NBA, which is absurd because it's Aron Baynes. That's awesome. Like, that game that he had where he had 37 and 16. Absolutely incredible. He goes in the record books along with James Harden as the only two players ever to have 35 plus points, 15 plus rebounds, and make more, like 9 or more threes. That's absurd. But on top of that, he's already an NBA champion, legend with Patty Mills on the Spurs. I like that there's like a little bit of a connection there with Patty and Bangers as well, right? With the 9 threes, they won a title together on the Spurs, etc. But that 37.16 rebound explosion is still one of the greatest moments ever in NBA Australia history. Like, we've done like 2 different, maybe 3 different great moments in NBA Australia stat histories about it, which is awesome. And I mean, that year that he was playing for Phoenix, he averaged 11.5 points, 5.5 rebounds, shot 48% from the floor and 35.1% from 3. And there was like a moment where he was the only center in the history of the NBA to have 9. He had the most threes in a game by an NBA center. That's it. Until Karl Anthony Towns, absolute flog, hit 10, which is another reason I hate Karl Anthony Towns. But 9 seasons in the NBA for Bangers. Got dogged by the Celtics when he's like, hey, when Danny Ainge is like, hey, do you want to take less money and we'll keep you around for longer? And he's like, yeah, no problem. So I'm happy to just play and be a Celtic. And then Danny Ainge stabbed him in the back and traded him and then caused the Celtics to go into a tailspin for the next bunch of years, dealing with the basketball karma gods. But Bangers was fantastic. He actually, that 37 that he put up was the Aussie record, I think, until Simo overtook it just a little bit later. And then obviously came home, played for the Bullets, the Bullet, which is kind of neat. And I just love Bangers. Geez, Jim, is it because you're a ginger? And it's like, no, but maybe. Like, it's like, he's awesome. Like, he's the exact personification of what we almost want from one Australian basketball player. Like, right? We just need one Bangers every generation. That's all we ask. And he gave us that and more. NBA title, record 9 threes, laying wood. Like he laid more wood than a bloody lumberjack. It was awesome. I love Aron Bangers Baynes, and of course that led to the Cooking with Baynesy segment that has been a staple of the NBA Australia stronghold, freehold, whatever, NBA Australia stable. There we go. For years and years and years, which honed my audio production skills. But also, I mean, it was definitely shot in front of a live studio audience and was definitely real. But I love doing those Cooking with Baynesys to the point where I'm like, I just want him to be on this show doing a Cooking with Baynesy just once. So let's make that happen. I did get to meet him once, which is very, very cool. He hasn't actually been on the show because he doesn't obviously do much media at all. Like to the point where it took ages and ages and ages for like the terrible, terrible injury that he suffered at the Tokyo Olympics that was career-threatening, life-threatening, all of that sort of stuff. For him to like actually eventually sort of sit down and talk about it, like it took a really long time, which is understandable. But we love Bangers here on NBA Australia, and I think the coolest part about Bangers is that find some detractors. Like everybody loves Bangers. We all love Baynesy. So what a great, great, great career. Here's to you. Raise a tin for Aron Bangers Baynes. Baynesy! Love it. Right. That was good. I love Bangers. And it was like, I saw the tweet from Moldovan pop up and you're like, man. Yeah. But it also figures he's pretty old now. Cool. That's about it. We're not going to do any more news. Let's do the 2024-2025 NBA team over-unders. The win over-unders for the East. How are you feeling about the East this year? Are you excited? Are you stoked? You should be, because let's do it. Team win over unders. Now, the East is a very interesting proposition this year. Why is that, Jim? I can't hear you ask. Well, if I look at the East, with the way some of the numbers are set, so the over-unders are basically, it's like, all right, this team will win X amount of games. I've got my spreadsheet where I've actually got all the totals of like the actual records I believe each team sort of finishes with. And there is, very similar to last year with the East, there is a very, very, very clear line of delineation, demarcation, if you will, of the good teams and the shit ones. And this year, due to the extremely tasty nature of the draft, we're going to have a bunch of shit teams. And the East is very, very, very nicely positioned to have the vast majority of those shit teams. So you've got an incredibly awesome top echelon in the East and a really shithouse bottom part of the East. And the cool thing is, I guess, for like if you're a sicko like me, the middle is fucking fun. Like you've got probably the top three, and then you've got the rest of the East in this just absolute fucking knockdown, drag it out, fight, scrap for all the playoff spots. Because this is the cool thing about the play-in. You need to be in the fucking top 6. Because if you're not, you're going to be stuck playing against like Boston, New York, or Philly maybe, or even Milwaukee. So those are your top 3, 4. And if you look at the total win over-unders, at the moment, Boston's at 58.5, New York's at 53.5, Milwaukee's 50.5, and Philly's 50.5. So that's your top 4. Next after that, you've got Cleveland at 48.5, Orlando 47.5, Indy 47.5. So you're already at like that sort of 7-team morass before you get to the likes of Miami at 43.5, Atlanta 36.5, and then the drop-off really hits. So you got Charlotte 31.5, Toronto 30.5, and then you got the bottom feeders. Chicago 27.5, Detroit 25.5, Wizards 20.5, and my beloved Brooklyn Nets, Box Hill Benny's Brooklyn Nets at 18.5 wins. Oh, Jesus. That's pretty rough, I'll tell you. So, what that tells you is that those top teams then get to feed on kicking the absolute bejesus out of those shit teams. So it should actually lift that top echelon's numbers up a little bit, which is why you see such a high one for like Boston at 58.5, despite they won, the title last year and went 64-18. But even like the Knicks and stuff, like having the 4 teams over 50, that makes sense. But having everybody else, like that top 7, basically above 47.5, that's crazy. If you think about like, all right, sick, the top 7 teams in the East, they're basically being projected right now as a 50-50 chance to either be 48 or 40, like above 47.5 wins, which is pretty nuts. Kind of like it. It means that you have an awesome, random sort of chance where you could get halfway through the season, you're like, wow, the East is shithouse. Or you're like, this is fucking awesome because anyone in the top 7 can beat anybody else in the top 7. Or you're seeing that sort of split between the top 3, top 4, if you want to count Milwaukee, into the top 7. And then it turns into who the fuck's going to be the 8th team? Is it going to be Miami? Is it going to be Atlanta? That's why this is fascinating. That's why I love it. Let's get into it with the Atlantic Division. That's right, the Atlantic Division. It's a fun one, the Atlantic. And when I say fun, I mean, well, 2 of the teams are weird as hell. The fun ones, obviously, are Boston, who last year went 64-18, won the NBA title. You might have heard of it. Jason Tatum got a weird tattoo on his back of himself. Absolute Steve-O territories. I love that. To be honest, I'm the bloke who did Mull getting a Delhi tattoo. That's pretty good. I wouldn't get his face, though. I think there was a bet that we're going to have where we're going to get a Delhi tattoo of his logo, which is Delhi in the shape of Australia, which, by the way, kicks fucking ass. So I might just still fucking get it. I'm just saying. Let's go. But Jason Tatum getting his own face on his back. Like, I don't know, what's weirder? Like, you getting your own face on your back or me getting Delhi's face on my back? You know what I'm saying? Like, I kind of think it's getting your own. It's just weird. Right? It's like, hey, here's my face here, but it's also here. You're like, what are you doing, you fucking weirdo? Anyway, Boston. The over-under, as I mentioned, is 58.5, which is a pretty big number. But at the same time, if you think about this team, and most crucially, I think, so we'll go down through every team, and like the ins and outs are kind of, for Boston, they just brought everybody back. They're like, are we running this back fully? And Joey Muzz, their coach, is like, we are fucking fully running this fully fucking back, or I will kung fu fucking kick your head off, dickhead. On the judo, on the fucking taekwondo, on the fucking MMA, I will fucking put you in a headlock until you fucking submit to me, dickhead. I'm going to make you all watch the fucking town so many times, motherfuckers, that you won't know what's going on. It's going to be sick as. So they drew Holiday, Derek White, Tatum, Brown, just perimeter ball handling combo is awesome, right? To the point where they've already, like, the extreme Zinger Mill is out for the foreseeable future. If he comes back around the trade deadline, that's probably fucking perfect for them. They don't need him. The problem is they've got average Al Horford, who's above average Al Horford now because he's won a title. He's their sort of main center, but outside of that, they just can fucking roll the dice and go, we'll get Luke Cornett. You go out there, do your thing. They've got Tillman. They can throw Hauser out there as like a stretch 5 if you really want, but the 5 spot doesn't really impact them that much. The Zinger missing piece doesn't really impact them this much, and I'm not worried about it in terms of them being competitive throughout the season, them having the eye of the tiger, them getting complacent. Why is that, Jim? Because they've, to be honest, as much fucking fun as I have doing his stupid, like doing the dumb impression I do, Joey Muzz is not going to let them get fucking complacent. He's like, Jason, if you don't fucking pass that ball over there to Jalen and you start fucking sleeping on a back-to-back, bro, I will fucking choke you out and make you watch the town, man. Oh, you might be my best man. I fucking love you, Jason, but I will fucking kill you. That's how it's going to go, man. Like, Joey Muzz has no fucking chill. Zero chill. I love Joey Muzz. Zero chill. That's why they're going to win 62 games. 62-20, I've got them this year. 64-18. It's just a little bit of a dip just because there'd be 1 or 2 teams where they just go, how the fuck do we lose that game? It's because you're the hunted team this year. You won the title. You're the reigning champs. You don't have the zinger. There's going to be a couple of games where you're like, oh, fuck, that team just hit like 18 threes and we hit 6 and we lost it today. That's why it's a couple less, but I still think they fly over that, what was it, 58.5? So 62-20, I love that. I'm going Boston over for basically everything. That is one of my, I'm already starting off with a lock, but we're going to Boston. I will do my like title picks and shit like that next week before the games start. But spoiler alert, Boston feature heavily in where I'm landing. I don't like it, but here we are. Anyway, Boston, 62-20, off we go. It's also like, because they've brought everybody back, Peyton Pritchard, Sam Hauser, all their dudes like Tillman, etc., they just get to roll them out there and just go, fuck it. You guys know what to do. Do your thing. And they're decent, so they can fucking go hammer and tongs. So they've also got Lonnie Walker, who is very solid for Brooklyn. Number 2 in the Atlantic Division is the New York Knickerbockers of New York City. Dude, I'm walking here. You might have heard about this team a bit. Remember the big trade, Karl Anthony Towns? And the other big bloody trade. They've got no draft picks until 2040. Jim, you can't actually trade it out to 2040. Shut up, nerd, I know. But the thing is, like, they've got absolutely fucking awesomely loaded top 6. And then nothing else. The thing is, I love just how this team fits, just in general. So they obviously move away from Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo in the Karl Anthony Towns deal. So we never get the Nova Knicks like we were sort of planning on after they traded for Mikal Bridges, for the Bojan Bogdanovic and stuff like that. I think, so they go 50-32 last year. They know with the 2 seed with that record. I think they're substantially better this year just because you've got Karl Anthony Towns, the perfect stretch 5 for this team. Defensively, they might take a little bit of a step back because you don't have the likes of, like an Isaiah Hartenstein, coming in. But their perimeter defense should be fucking terrifying. Like, they've got Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Karl Anthony Towns. They've just got dudes. And those dudes are dogs. Off we go. That's the big perk analysis right there. I don't know what to tell you. They got dogs. It's like, what is perk? Is he saying fucking words? What is happening here? Anyway, the New York Knickerbockers of New York City are going to be very, 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 very good because if you want another coach with absolutely zero fucking chill, it's Tibbs. Like, Karl Anthony Towns is not going to be able to like slough around and be a fucking mopey sook with Tibbs just like going, I will fucking put my foot in your ass if you fucking put a foot wrong here, pal. And if they get the other Mitch Robinson back at some point during the season healthy, that is a very solid 1-2 punch of big men, which I very much like. They've already still got Precious Achua, bless you, Jericho Sims-Azell, and of course, the big man himself, Big Ariel Huck-Porty. Love that. Former Melbourne United big man. But I just love the perimeter defense for this Knicks team because you got Brunson who tries his ass off. He's a fucking, what do I call him? A cinder block, basically. Built like a brick shit house. He's hard to move. That pick and pop game with him and Cat on offense is awesome. But Brunson's defense, look, you'll hear time, he's not that good. He's fine, right? But you put Mikal Bridges, Josh Hart, and OG Anunoby around him. That is fucking awesome. The length of Karl Anthony Towns, boom, away you go. You've got Deuce McBride coming off the bench. You've got Campaign Shaw as another backup. They've got ShamWow. He hurt his shoulder. That's where they have the problem with, what was it, Pacome Dadier? I love that name, Dadier. They do struggle for depth after all these trades, but at the same time, fucking right. As if Tibbs is going to play those dudes that much anyway. He's Tibbs. He's a fucking lunatic. And if you get 1 or 2 other buyout dudes can just help lift that depth at the buyout or the trade deadline, whatever, you should be laughing. I think the Knicks are going to be awesome. 56-26 this year. This was one of my locks a few weeks ago when we started doing these. They went 50-32 last year. All they did was get better with Bridges and Cat. They might struggle if there's an injury. Like we saw, if OG Anunoby actually fucking stays healthy for a year, watch out. But they've got enough sort of positional redundancy where like Bridges, Hart, and Anunoby are all switchable across those 3 sort of wing positions. Maybe not Bridges and Hart. Well, Bridges up to the 4, but at least he's fine across the 2-3. So I like the Knicks to win a lot of games. Tibbs is not going to take the foot off the gas ever. 56-26. Bing bong. Let's go Knicks. Number 3, the Philadelphia 6ers. This one is tougher. They went 47-35 last year. The over-under is 50.5. I am tempering expectations despite enjoying what they did. I'm tempering expectations for regular season wins. Nick Nurse is a very good coach. But they've already come out and said basically Joel Embiid and Paul George are just not going to play back-to-backs. So you probably chop and change that a little bit to look after their health, etc. They do have a little bit of salt, like after all the moves that your man Daryl Morey made over the offseason, they've got a bunch of depth there because you obviously, as I said, noted Boston Celtics killer Caleb Martin. They also have Eric Gordon, and you're like, okay, fine. Andre Drummond, you're like, cool, you're just rolling out very solid second units here at this point. And the one that I loved the most was Yabu. I hate him. He's a fuckhead, but he is a solid basketball player to put on this Sixers team, despite him hurting our beloved Dante Exum when he was over in Europe. They've got KJ Martin. They've got awesome rookies and Adam Boner. And your man, Jared McCain, TikTok Tyrese. But Ricky counts for 4 as well. Like, he's fucking solid. Like, they're a deep team. The problem is, when Embiid doesn't play, they're just a bit shit. And when you look at the East, you're like, okay, so if you've got 3 really good teams, you've got Paul George and you've got Embiid. But if you're already coming out now and going, right, well, they're just not going to play back-to-backs. I have to pull back somewhere on some of these win totals, and it's going to be at Philly. I've got them at 48 and 34, which is actually just a tick under over the 50, the 50 and a half line, right? It is, however, 1 win better than they managed last year. So the key thing for me is Embiid not playing back-to-backs, but can he also avoid the 6-week injury like he had last year where they just fucking went, well, we're fucked, right? And Philly just got really, really banged up. The thing is he's not played that – there's like a weird stat where I think he hasn't played over something like 66 games, I think, in a season in his NBA career, which is pretty crazy once you sort of start thinking about it, right? Considering that the dude has won a MVP and probably would have won another one last year. So it's a strange setup for them, but you, on top of that, throw out Paul George. You're like, hey, what does Paul George love? And you're like, oh, is it getting injured? Oh, yeah, that's one. That's one of the things. He also has stretches where he looks like he's one of the best players in the entire NBA, right? And you're like, oh, that's good. Can keep that up? It's like, nah, that was a pretty good month. What happened to him in the playoffs? Oh, I fucking don't know. Classic. But Embiid, if you go through it, so he has not played more than 68 games in an NBA season. He is now going to be turning 30 at some point this season as well, which is pretty crazy once you start thinking about it, right? Well, he's already 30. He turned 30 at the start of this year. So, oh boy. At what point do you go, well, he's probably not going to play 68 games. So you just sort of have to temper expectations. 48-34 feels about right for me, even though I really fucking like the Sixers when it gets to the playoffs. Like, if they can just start playing their dudes, they've got awesome depth. That should keep them afloat throughout this season. But as it stands, it leaves me with Philly in my overall standings in 6th, which is crucial. They need to stay in 6th, right? So there you go. Philly, 48 and 34. 1 win better than last year, but 2.5 wins under the 50.5 line. Toronto! Wow, this one is fucked. 52 losses. 30 wins I've got them down for at the moment. Last year they went 25 and 57 after going in the absolute tank to go and get there and keep their draft pick, or to give it up. I can't even remember. But they were just like, we are tanking extremely hard. And they've got RJ Barrett. They've got, IQ, Scoob, Teenage Mutant Jakob Poeltl, Grady Dick, and you sort of look at this roster, you go, it's fine, but wow, it's also not good. They did pull off the Davion Mitchell trade, which was kind of cool. They got Okchai Agbaji last year. Kelly Olynyk still on this team, and you're like, wow, somebody needs to go and get him very, very soon. They picked up Jacoby Walter in the draft at number 19 this year. I am fascinated by what people think of this Toronto Raptors team because I don't think they're that good. And I feel like 30 and 52 is maybe even overestimating it a little bit. But Scoob is good. RJ Barrett is good. Emmanuel Quickley is good. Grady Dick can shoot the piss out of it, which is ironic. Davion Mitchell, trade to center, maybe that works. I think they're solid. If they don't decide to go in the tank, they probably just sort of muddle along and then probably pack her up, boys, and go in the tank anyway. But this is actually, their over-under is 30.5, and I did all my actual win totals and shit before I actually knew what the over-under was. So when I actually hit that, I'm like, oh, fuck, I nailed that one. Like, quite literally, bang on the head. That's a half game under. They went 25 and 57. Give me 30 and 52 for Toronto this year. I just feel a bit like there's talent. They need more, though. So we'll see what happens for Toronto. And then finally, Brooklyn. They're shit. 12 and 70. Wow, this team is going to be bad. Box Hill Benny, he's back, baby. For now. Until something weird goes on with his back or something. But look, touch wood that he's okay. I am here for the Box Hill Benny revenge tour. Unfortunately, there is absolutely fuck all other talent on that Brooklyn team as it stands. Cam Thomas has never met a shot he doesn't like. He's like Ja Morant. Bang, bang. Nick Claxton got signed on the offseason. Cam Johnson can shoot the piss out of it, but he's probably a better trade asset than an actual player at this point. And the same goes for Dorian Finney-Smith. They will have a fire sale at the trade deadline. Sean Marks, Brew. Oh, Brew, would you like to take any of my guys for like some draft picks? And everyone will be like, maybe. They are basically in a holding pattern. They've got Dennis Schroeder, I am German Rondo. They are a horrible, horrible team. They'll have some weird wins like early on in the season where they just take teams by surprise, but then they absolutely will be bottoming out. Trust me. Brooklyn's over-under is 18.5. That is a lock for me to go under. They went 32 and 50 last year when they started off with a half-decent team, and they were trying, and then it all went to shit. 12 and 70 would not surprise me in a heartbeat if they are even worse than that. That's the Atlantic Division. I've obviously got Boston winning it. Central Division. How funny are divisions? They mean nothing beyond like you play these guys more than you play the other teams. Anyway, Cleveland. I really wish I had that drop on this board. Cleveland. 52 and 30 I've got them at this year, and I feel like that might be a little bit, I had to go a little bit conservative in this one because I have again, very similar to the Atlantic Division. The top three in this division, I have them very closely clumped together. 52 and 30 for Cleveland. Donnie Mitchell signed on. You don't have the fucking drama of him like, oh, do we have to trade him so it's not a lame duck season? He signed his extension. He signed his massive, massive contract. You've got Jared Allen on a very nice contract. You've got Evan Mobley. Can he actually sort of just be the do-everything Kevin Garnett dude? You've got Darius Rucker, Judy Garland. You've got Maxi Strus. You've got a little bit of shooting. You've got Isaac Okoro back on cheap. You've got George Niang, the minibus. Can you put it together? You've got Kenny Atkinson. You've got a new coach. I believe in this one. Their over-under is 48.5. I've got them going over. And that is because I just believe in their talent. I think that's the sort of like, they have a day-to-day, game-to-game, Dame-to-Dame. We'll talk about Dame in a second. A game-to-game floor that is probably higher than a lot of teams, just simply because they've got Donnie Mitchell, Darius Garland. One of them might have a shit night. You've got the other one. That's some nice positional redundancy if you need to have these two dudes out there. The defense is going to be fascinating to see how it goes under Kenny. Don't know if I trust it, but I don't mind the over for Cleveland. 52 and 30. Let's go. Next up, we've got Milwaukee. It's Algonquin for the good land. Is it the good land this year? Yes, depending on the health. That's all this is, right? It's all health. You've got Dame and Giannis. Love it. You've got Doc Rivers. He's had an off season. I didn't have an off season. I'm going to blame everybody. Classic Doc. Now he's had an off season. The biggest question is health and defense. Under Buds, they were fantastic defensively for years and years and years. The problem was the offense. Now you've got Dame. The offense should be able to take care of itself a little bit. Defensively, everyone's like, Dame is shit house, but the plus-minus numbers, you want to trust them. They're actually a little bit better with him on the floor last year. I've got them, the over-under for them, and this is another example of like, holy shit, like once you actually go and find the over-under numbers after the ones that I'd written down, I have them at 51 and 31, one game behind the Cleveland Cavaliers. The over-under was 50.5, so we're going over for Milwaukee. They went 49 and 32 last year, trying to acclimatize to the Dame situation. Dame trying to figure out what the fuck's going on. Dame being out of shape. So I feel like the ceiling for Milwaukee is like a 2 seed. I think I sort of hit on this in the short that we did the other day about the MVPs, right? Like Milwaukee, if Giannis just goes out there and does Giannis shit and averages a fucking 30, 12, and 4, and they're the 2 seed. He could win the MVP. Like, that's what Giannis could do. That's how good he could be. That's how good this team could be. But, they add some other solid pieces. As I mentioned the other day, Gary Terrence Trent D'Arby Jr. Gary Trent Jr. shoots the piss out of it. He's slightly more reliable than Malik Beasley as well, who they had last year. You got Delon Wright. You've got Torian the Red Bull Prince. The problem is this is an old team. So I'm trying to like thread the needle of like 51 and 31. That's like, we're fucking good, but we're always missing dudes because we're injured, right? And that's where I sort of sit. I think they'll be solid. I think they'll be good. Health and defense is the big questions around Milwaukee. I think they just sneak over. The Indianapolis Pacers. Under. Oh, geez, Jim, they made the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, their over-under is 47.5. They won 47 games last year, and I had them for 46 this year. I thought I was being slightly generous as well. I think there's like, you've got Siakam now. Cool, that's all been done. You've got Halliburton. You've got Turner. You've got Benny Mathurin. You've got our man, Johnny Furphy. We fucking love Johnny Furphy. Teams aren't going to be surprised by Indy this year. I think Indy took a lot of teams by surprise. They went absolutely hammering tongs during the in-season tournament. The NBA Cup this year, no, everyone's going to be paying attention this time. They've got that insane floor of that court. Loved it. 46 and 36. I just think there'll be some growing pains as Indy try to figure out, right, we made an Eastern Conference Finals. If you cast your mind back to like the Dame and CJ Blazers that made the Western Conference Finals with like 17 or 18 up against the Warriors, it sort of feels like that team where it's like, oh, we're pretty bloody good. We are. It's like, how good are you? Oh, fuck, we lost Halliburton for 4 weeks. It's like, oh, well, here's Andy Nemhard. And you're like, yeah, he's not as good as Halliburton, though. They are deep. They are good. I love me some Rick Carlisle. I just think the top end of the East, if they kick some ass, take some names, and beat all the shit teams, they're going to be fine. The problem is against the top end teams, I think. 46 and 36, very similar to last year where they're a bit of a surprise packet. This is not a step back. They're 1.5 games below the over-under at this one. It's 47.5. I'm going under 46 and 36. Then you got the 2 teams at the bottom of the Central, Detroit and Chicago. I have them both at 26 and 56. That's a tough one for Chicago, isn't it? Because they went 39 and 43 last year. Yeah, they've got Levine. They've got Lonzo back. They've got Josh Giddey. I just think this team is horrible. Like, they just stink. And again, if you've got the top echelon teams that are good, do you trust this team to keep kicking crap out of the bad teams? No. 26 and 56, I think they move Levine to just somebody. They'll probably, hopefully, move off Vooch at some point. And then you've got Giddey, Kobe White, Patch, Lonzo, question marks. It is a weird, weird team, that Chicago team. I'm all invested. I love the idea of Giddey just kicking ass, taking names. I just don't think that team's very good. And the same thing with Detroit, where they've got an actual vaguely competent coach maybe this time in JB Bickerstaff. They've got Cade, what do we call him? Caden Ivey, don't we? Caden Ivey. Cade Cunningham and Jaden Ivey. You got Allstar Thompson. You got Tobias Harris, as well as Tim Hardaway Jr., a couple of other veterans that'll just help them be a little bit better than they were last year when they went 14 and fucking 68. Yeesh. So that's actually Detroit's over. 25.5. And that's Chicago's under because it's 27.5, which again, I was fucking dumbstruck by that. I'm like, wait. So I've gone 1.5 games under Chicago and I've gone a half game over for Detroit without looking at the fucking win totals. That was pretty good. So that's just what I believe. Chicago, I don't think they're going to be great. Detroit, sneakily okay here at times until the ass falls out of it and they finally bite the bullet and trade Tobias Harris and Tim Hardaway Jr. at the trade deadline. Southeast. This is the fun shit. I'll tell you what. Because it's Para Bancaro time. This Orlando Magic team is weird AF. I love them. They're so lengthy and weird. And this is actually the biggest gap I have in all the over-unders between the first and second place teams across the entire league. Because I have the Orlando Magic who went 47 and 35 last year, made the playoffs, got, their feet wet, had a bit of a fun time about it. I've got them winning 50 games this year, going 50 and 32. Their over-under is 47.5. That is a lock for me to go over. I love Orlando. The only problem I sort of still see sitting there is, and as we sort of talked about the other day on the other show, they are basically my beloved Seattle Supersonics. It's Jalen Suggs as the shit version of the glove, and Paolo Banchero is a shit version of the Sean Kemp. And you've got fucking Franz Wagner as Detlef Schrempf. This is awesome. Like, it's just all coming together. The thing is, they've actually got big dudes who aren't Jim fucking McIlvaine. There's a blast from the past. He's the reason that fucking Sean Kemp left Producer Gerald. And I'd love to have Jim McIlvaine on the show and just go, it's all your fault. Ruined my fucking childhood. No, it wasn't his fault. It was the fucking was it Wes Wilcox, the stupid GM at the time? Anywho, the Magic Men. So I think I mentioned Fultz the other day as like their point guard. And then I was like, hang on a second, why is he not on their depth chart? And then, it turns out he hasn't been re-signed by anybody. So he's just out there hanging out. And you're like, oh, sure. So Suggs is still their point guard. They go and sign the notorious KCP. So they've got an extra 3-and-D wing, which is fucking very, very handy because the rest of that fucking roster was like, hey, Gary Harris, can you hit a three? He's like, maybe today. Tomorrow I might hit 6. Today I'll go 0 for fucking 8. Check this out. At least with KCP, he's at least a kind of more reliable version of that. It is also weird that Gary Harris used to be on the Nugs instead of KCP. But anyway, Franz Wagner, hello. If he can fucking find his 3-ball again and play a bit of FIBA Franz, love that for him. They re-sign Wendell. They re-sign Johnny Isaac to these big extensions. They're all locked away. Like, this core is locked away together. They are perfectly positioned to just get better together. And I always fucking love that for a bit of over-unders. Like, Indy is a bit of a weird one because you've got Siakam sort of brought in as like the veteran kind of dude, but Halliburton is clearly the leader. They're still going to be good. Orlando, like, all I'm saying is a 3-win improvement from them because it's sort of the thing where without a really good point guard, you can sort of see it plateauing a little bit, but they should just be incrementally better anyway, just as they all get a little bit older. Suggs and Paolo and Franz, love that. They get KCP, happy days. Go in the over for Orlando, lock for me, 50-32, over the 47.5. Then we go to Miami. As I said, this is the biggest gap I've got in any division in the NBA this year. Miami 40-42. That is under their 43.5 line. Last year they went 46-36, so it's a 6-game drop-off. Now, Jim, what do you reckon it's going to be a 6-game drop-off? I don't know, because Jimmy Butler's old and fucking weird, and I don't think he likes basketball that much. He's like, hey, man, basketball's all well and good, but you know what I'm really fucking good at? And it's like, oh, yeah, what are you going to fucking tell us something, fucking Jimmy? He's like, dominoes. It's like, rad. No one cares. Just no one fucking cares. Bam is a weapon. I love that. But they got the roster crunch problem this year, right? So they've got, and my biggest thing outside of that, they lose Caleb Martin, lose a couple of other dudes, right? But their starting backcourt at the moment looks like it's Terry Rozier, and Tyler, there goes my hero. Who the fuck are they defending? Like, I don't know if they could stop you and me, Gerald. Like, this is fucking nut. Well, they could, because I'm fucked, but you might be a weapon. Like, I don't know. I reckon now I want to know how Gerald hoops. Anyway, but Rose and Hero, you got Butts. Like, their starting four at the moment is either Kevin Love or Nikola Jovic. Jovic, a couple of seasons in, maybe is good. We just don't know. You've got Bam. Butts is like a lock to miss a bunch of games each year. I love Spoelstra. I think he's probably the best coach in the NBA. Top 3 at the very fucking worst. I just feel like you hit like a wall every so often with talent drain where you're like, geez, Tyler Hero's good. It's like, yeah, but he misses so much fucking time, it doesn't matter. Same with Jimmy Butler. There's only so much Bam Adebayo can do. Duncan Robinson had a nice bounce back at times last year. Kevin Love is now old as fuck. Jaime Jaquez was like a really handy piece for them. But again, how much can they all do? 40-42 just feels like hedging out bets a little bit because after them, I've got Atlanta at 38-44, and this is the one with probably the wildest swings possible. Because Zachary Richardson, Trae Young, our boy Dyson Daniels, Larry Nance Jr., their bigs, Onyeka Okongwu, Clint Capella and co, Bogdan Bogdanovic. That's solid. It's also most of the team that went 36-46 last year, right? If Richardson gives them something, as the number 1 fucking pick in the draft, probably ought to, what we've seen in preseason, you're like, bullshit. Hey, hang on a second, he's good. It's like, yeah, he went number 1 for a fucking reason. But hang on, we didn't really think about that. Yeah, it's because he's French, and he's not fucking Wemby. But 38 and 44, that's 1.5 over their line for Atlanta. So I actually feel okay. I think 36.5 is probably too low, so I'm happy with the 38 and 44 because they could easily be that fucking 8 seed, 7 seed even, and sort of like really push into the 40s. So I like the Atlanta over. I've hedged my bets a little bit there with the 38 and 44, just behind Miami with their 40 against the 40 and 35. So Atlanta over. Charlotte. This one's weird. 32 and 50 I've got them at. Again, it's almost like I do this for a fucking job, Gerald, but their over-under is 31.5. And I said 32. Jesus, so that is just over. They went 21 and 61 last year, but what did they not have last year? LaMelo Ball. He's good. If you have LaMelo healthy, you win some games. You're not going to win 45 games, but you're going to win more games than 21. You've got Miles Bridges, that piece of shit. You've got Brandon Spindles-Miller. Second year, absolutely fucking was very, very, very good for them last year as a rookie. You've got Josh Green. If your centers can stay fucking healthy with Mark Williams and co., you're not a bad team. Charlotte is not a bad team. They've moved on from a coach. They've got an actual competent fucking coach there now. I like Charlotte a lot this year, just saying. To the point where even though I predicted at 32 and was a bit surprised when it was 31.5, sneakily, I think Charlotte might be a lock for me. I'm just a little bit optimistic about them. I think they're good. If you go through their depth chart as well, and you just go, like, they should beat the sans hell out of, like, all the shit teams. And if you do that, you've got a floor of about 28 wins. So if you just beat the shit ones every time you play them, basically, and you sort of just need, like, the 4, 5, 6 random other wins on top for the rest of the season, and you are laughing at this over. So with LaMelo, Spindles-Miller, Josh Green, Miles Bridges, that piece of shit, Mark Williams. You've got Micic coming off an Olympics. You've got Trey Mann. You've got the other Martin, Cody Martin, Grant Williams, Nick Richards, as well as their backup big man. You've got your other rookie, Tijan Salon. Like, I've just made a big case for Charlotte. I'm just saying, don't mind it. Let's go Hornets. And then finally, making a case for being shit, the Washington Wizards. The weirdest part was I gave them at least a little bit of credit. I landed at 22 and 60 for the Washington Wizards. Their over-under is 20.5. So somehow, and there is no way in fucking hell I'm going to bet this one, I've gone over. What's the opposite of a lock? Like, this is an unlocked gate just fucking waving in the wind. I want no part of that. I'm just like fucking pants down, around the ankles, stumbling drunkenly into a fucking path of a passing Mack truck. I want no bar of this as a lock. Like, we're fucking just steer clear. Because what happens with this team? You've got Jordan Poole. You've got Kyle Kuzma. You've got fucking Malcolm Brogdon. And my name is Jonas Valanciunas. You've got all these random veterans who are out there going, I'm getting paid a shit ton of money to play for a horrible fucking team. And then you've got a bunch of young dudes. Corey Kispert. You've got Alexander Sara. And dudes like this, Bilal Coulibaly, who are like, can we please play and just like do it the right way? And those veterans like Poole and Kuzma and co are just like, fuck you nerds. Like, no chance. Fascinated by this. You got Bub Carrington and stuff like that. I just feel like at some point they're just going to pull the trigger on a Kuzma trade, on a Poole trade. They'll just sling my name is Jonas on his weird 3-year contract. Brogdon will be like the fucking talk of the town as like the veteran point guard that every team needs. Like, if Phoenix somehow land Malcolm Brogdon, I'm fucking all aboard the Phoenix train, which we'll get to in the second part of this. But Washington, there's at least, so 22 wins is not much. They went 15 and 67 last year, and they're a fucking train wreck. They've actually got their, proper coach. He's been solidified as their dude. And now you sort of just have this moment, like, will they be okay? Will they be fine? I don't want to say fucking over. I'm definitely not going to bet it. But 22 and 60, I feel like there's just like a happy medium where they're not as los horrible as they were last year. But, all right, I'm talking myself out of this. We might have to get back under. 18? We'll go to 18. All right, we're going to 18. Fuck it. 18. Who could we give some more wins? Miami. We'll give Miami 2, what do we say, 22. So that's 4 more wins. I'll give 2 more to Miami. They go to 42 and 40. And we'll give Atlanta 2 more wins in that same division. So they've got 40 wins now and 42 losses. All right. 18 and what's that? 64? Yeah, that sounds right. Because the flip side of that is they might also just sit Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma and Jonas in the second half of the season because they go, hang on, we want Cooper Flag. We're tanking hard as fucking possible and we're going to win 18 games. There you go. I've got them at 18 and 60. That's now under. I feel much better about that. Do you like how I talked that out? Do you like that one, Gerald? I'm not so married to it all that here we are. So my locks, Boston over 56.5. I think that's what it was, wasn't it? 56.5? 58.5. Yeah, it's still a lock. You can actually probably alternate line that one and drop it down a little bit. Like there are the ones where you can like lock in over 55 wins for like a bunch of different teams. I definitely lock that in. I think Boston still go over 60, which is crazy. Knicks over 53.5. Charlotte, as I mentioned, I don't know if it's quite a lock, but I fucking love that one. I'm going to go over. Brooklyn under 20.5 and Orlando over 47.5. And there are my locks. Other ones I kind of like. Maybe the Atlanta 36.5, but I just don't want to lock it just because I want to see that a little bit more. Cleveland feels like a bit more of a lock as well with Kenny Atkinson, but I don't know, 48 and 34 last year, 48.5 this year. Are they better? Yes. So that probably should be able to walk into that one. And on top of that, the other lock, I mean, the Philly under is just sort of screaming at me going, go on, Jim, do it. But I might not. All right, so there you go. That is the East. You feeling good? You feeling great? And that might do us for today. We'll be back tomorrow with the West and part 2 in a bit of a, I don't know, hashtag spoiler alert. We're going to tape it straight after this one. We're just going to release it tomorrow as well. So, you know, a bit of a peek behind the curtain as long as my actual voice holds it. All right, so we will catch you tomorrow. In the meantime, make sure you're following NBA Australia, especially over on the YouTubes. You can watch all this fun stuff unfolding. Jump on there, comment, like, subscribe. If you hit the little bell thing on YouTube, that actually puts like a notification alert thing up in your the top of your corner of your YouTube as well. So when a new show pops up, it'll let you know. Kind of neat, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Give us a rating review on your Apple Podcast or your Spotify. If you haven't done that as well, again, you're taking the piss. Like, come on, mate. Help a brother out. Your mate Jim's out here slogging away day after day after day, trying to make preseason fun again. If you haven't written a comment on the Apple Podcast or Spotify or given it 5 stars, that's just shit person territories. I'm just saying. Come on, help a brother out, mate. Also get around us on Twitter, Facey, IG, and TikTok. See lots of weird little fun videos that we're popping up all the time. Got a bunch of fun ones for the preseason as well, which is pretty good. And yeah, already people going, Jim, where's Jokic in your top 5 for MVP? He's not there. There is no way he's going to win a 4th MVP. Like, I just don't think he's got a chance of getting into the top 5. Well, he's probably got a bit of a chance to get in the top 5. I think my approach was like, here are the top 5 chances to win the MVP. Yeah, if that makes sense. Rather than the top 5 actual and final voting. So yeah, bit of an addendum to the video that I did. But anywho, lots of good stuff. What else? NFL Australia with myself and Gaz. That is going great guns at the moment. Check it out. Week 7 ahead. And we have the the NBA Australia shop as well. Click through on the socials, get a t-shirt, get a hoodie, all that good stuff. Big thanks always go to From Oslo for the intro and outro song, as well as to House Hats and Joshua De Laurentiis. Fascinator, Gold Mines, Ramshackle Alarmy, Iowa Section, Green and Dozers. They're behind all the tunes you hear throughout the show. Smash them on Bandcamp, Triple J on Earth, Facey, Apple Music, Spotify, however you listen to your tunes. Remember, NBA Australia supports Australian bands. And that's it. Pour one out for a classic Cooking with Baynesy. We might actually have to run a classic Cooking with Baynesy at the end of this one, just for all time's sake. And then we'll probably do another one on tomorrow's show as well. That seems nice, doesn't it? Just a bit of a classic Cooking with Baynesy to sign off your Thursday and Friday team win over-unders extravaganza with NBA Australia. What a man. What a great, great man. I just want him on the show. It's like, whoa, I'm seeing double. 4 Jimmies. All right. We will catch you tomorrow for the West Over-Unders show. I'll see you then, you dickheads. This is NBA Australia saying, look after yourselves, would you? And let us know.
Cooking with Baynesy is filmed in front of a live studio audience. And now it's time for Cooking with Baynesy with your host, Aron Bangers Baynes. G'day. Yes, how are you all? Well, look at you over there. I see you over there again, Cheryl. Yes, we know that you love it. Oh, this is great. Yeah, g'day. Welcome to Cooking with Baynesy. I am your host, Aron Bangers Baynesy. All right, so this here episode, we're going to whip up one of my absolute favourite Australian staples. You can have it whenever as well, at night, for dinner, after a big night on the Terps. It's that absolute Aussie classic. It is Hawaiian pizza. Oh, yes, that's right. I love me some Hawaiian pizza, and it's easy as to make, mate. I mean, it definitely helps keeping up this physique, if you know what I mean. I reckon I probably cook about 3 of these bloody things a week, you know what I'm saying? And also, hey, just for yous out there as well, don't bloody listen to anyone who says shit about pineapple on pizza. They can go and do what I tell every centre in the Eastern Conference of the NBA. They can go fuck themselves, all right? You can put whatever the fuck you want on pizza. It's pizza. All right, so anyway, Hawaiian pizza is bloody simple, mate. All you gotta do is go down to your soupy and grab yourself a pizza base. I love the spongier, thick ones, you know. Grab a thing of tomato paste. Now, don't bother with the fancy pants shit with basil or oregano in it unless you want to be like all fancy pants and shit. Because then you just grab a bunch of shredded ham from the deli. Grab a bag of shredded cheese. Now, you can have mozzarella, cheddar, home brand, whatever you want. Doesn't matter. It's just bloody cheese. And the key ingredient, a tin of pineapple chunks. Now, it's pretty easy to whip this bad boy up, so let's get to it. All right, here we go. Now, just whip your base out. There you go. All right, now smother it with the tomato paste. Oh, yep, there you go. Smooth her out a bit. Just make sure it's all over the entire thing. Now, dump your ham on there. Yep, all this shredded ham. Now, get your fingers amongst that. Shove that to the edges. There you go. Spread that out nice and even. Yep, there you go. All right, now cover this liberally with the dead pig. Come on, man. You got to put the ham everywhere. Just need hoops and hoops and hoops of ham. Just make sure it's the nice shredded stuff, though. All right, now drain your pineapple into the sink, or you can drain it into a cup and drink that pineapple juice, you know. What bloke doesn't like a cup of pineapple juice, you know what I'm saying, ladies? There we go. Now, fang the chunks of pineapple on there. Just put it everywhere, you know, just throw it around. And then cover up the entire bloody thing with your shredded cheese. All right. Now, we've got this oven over here. Just wang her in there in the oven. There you go, just for a good 15, 20 minutes at about 220 degrees Celsius. None of that Fahrenheit bullshit. Now, sit back, grab a tin, and let her cook. Oh, doesn't that bloody well smell delicious? All right, now here's one we made a little bit earlier. So you can see once it's browning a bit on the edges and all your cheese is all melty and nice, you whip her out, you chop her up into slices, and Bob is your bloody pizza-loving uncle. Now, give it a sec to cool down before you chow down. Don't burn your bloody tongue because that cheese will be hot as buggery, eh? So, all right, now it's there. Just get your bloody munch on. And that is an absolute bloody ripper of a meal. The best bit is, and this will impress everyone, right? You can cook it whenever you want. Mates, the missus, kids, everyone bloody loves Hawaiian pizza. And if they don't, just give them the old bangers, don't argue, and go tell them to cook their own bloody pizza. Because this is just bloody delicious, mate. All right, how easy was that? Cool, there you go. That is absolutely unreal. Love me some Hawaiian pizza. All right, so that's it for this week. Tune in next week for a new recipe, and we'll see yous then on the next episode of Cooking with Baynesy.